It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on that. You may like it, may not like it. Declaration of Independence, we find these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, of which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes on in the Constitution to say we are putting together this Constitution in a preamble to secure the blessings, not only for ourselves, for posterity. And that Constitution followed with a Bill of Rights that enumerated those godly rights given to man, including the very first one, which was a right to believe in God and to express that belief anytime, anywhere, including the public square.
33 million. It's proven to the money investors that people want something to feed their souls, not just their worst desires.
Absolutely.
And
yes, indeed.
This kind of sums up my entire dialogue career on the heat of the night. You ready for this? Okay, this is it. My 7 years on the heat of the night. My dialogue all summarized into this. Get right on it, Chief.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
Hey, welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. Thunderous Thursday here. Had a great show yesterday with Triple G, Go Guillermo, and Sir Lawrence of Powell, Larry Powell. But today, Thunderous Thursday here by my old lonesome here. Well, I got you all that have decided to tune in, and what a blessing that is. Tune in, log in, whatever the terminology. If you can hear my voice or see my old worn-out face, you're here. You're on the Alan Autry No Retreat show, and as I said, I'm so honored and humbled every time I get the blessing to be able to spend this hour with you. Let's start this thing off with some good news, because later here in just a few minutes, people have asked me, Alan, you just go after Biden so much. I said, well, look, I really wouldn't go after Biden if he would just stop going after us, the everyday American, and making life so dang miserable in things he doesn't have to do. Then I wouldn't go after Biden. I'm one of those guys. I'm not politicized to the point where if a guy's up there talking, hey, I'm going to push for non-burdensome taxation for individuals, families, businesses. I'm going to keep our border secure. I'm going to make sure that the jobs are available out there, that we stay strong in our military, but we keep the doors open of communication in this dangerous nuclear-filled world. If you said, hey, he says, I'm going to put my foot down on this crime situation. It's escalating out of control, and we're going to unleash the power of the federal government to get control of it. Cities, you need more cops. We'll help you fund it. That's a way to build back better. You start building up your police forces instead of tearing them down. I would honestly, I say this so often. Sometimes I know I feel like I'm repeating myself ad nauseum, but yeah, I have my principles, my unshakable principles. I believe in the sanctity of life. I believe in a fair shake for everybody. I'm adamantly against racism, child abuse. I'm for the American dream, faith, family, and freedom. And those are unshakable principles. To me, those aren't politics. That's not political positions. And so, I would have no problem. I promise you. I've lived 12 dreams in this world. Most people don't get to even live one. And if it all ended today for me, I mean, not just career, but my life, whatever, I would be nothing but thankful. Most of my problems in my life, most of them were self-inflicted. I got nobody to blame but myself. As they say, if you're born in America, you hit the lottery right off the bat. And I believe that with all of my heart. So I would have no problem taking the political flack thrown at me by certain institutions, certain individuals, certain political persuasions. If I said, hey, Joltin' Joe now is starting to do the right thing. He's walked a lot of this stuff back. He's opened up the Keystone Pipeline again, put the sanctions back on the Nord Stream pipeline for Russia. He's decided to come down hard on crime, and putting folks away when they commit these egregious, violent crimes. I'd have no problem saying, way to go, Joe, and take the political flack that comes that way. I promise you. But this man has set a whole new standard for dishonesty, for inexplicable, damaging, and destructive policies for this country, not only this generation, but for generations to come. And it seems like it never ends. But to show you that I'm going to call out something nice, something positive when it happens, I'm looking up the monitor here at the studio. And as I said, we got one screen with Fox News, the other with CNN. We are fair and balanced here. And I'm seeing Joe right now giving out the Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor that the federal government can give to 17 Americans. Steve Jobs is going to get one posthumously. I know I probably murdered that word, but he's gone. So, and also John McCain is getting the posthumously the Medal of Freedom. I got the pleasure of meeting John McCain and didn't agree with all of his policies, but he and I got to be pretty good friends. And he was a loss on the political landscape. I know he made some decisions that ticked a lot of people off, including me. But overall, nobody's perfect. And he was a very adamant, patriotic American, and he certainly deserves this honor. So there he is up there giving those honors, and I have no problems in saying, way to go, Joe. Just make sure you understand that the medal goes around the neck, not around the ankle. I'm just kidding. Gosh, I'm getting old too, Old people do some strange things. Don't hold that against them. But now we've got to get into the nitty. But before we get to my latest beef, and I'm sure you all, if you care about America, even if you don't care about America, if you care about just making it through this whole thing called life, being able to financially make it through, especially if you have a kid, God forbid you have 2 or 3 kids with this economy. There's a lot of things to be unhappy about. And to be quite honest, a lot of it goes back to Joe. Again, things that were preventable. So we're going to get into his latest, I would call it blunder, but I do believe it's part of the plan. I don't buy for one second that Joe Biden was ever Scranton Joe, the normal Joe. You look back at the history of his political career, it was all about, number one, staying in power and being a very, very, not liberal, really. He was probably woke before woke was cool to 50% of Americans, and I think he's just being exposed because he's never been in a position like the presidency where his decisions people paid attention to. When you're one senator out of a body of 100, you can do things, say things, and people say, oh, Sloppy Joe said that. Oh, okay, who cares? And you go on the next thing because the buck didn't stop with him. We're interested where the buck stops with people. And number one, the presidency. You're going to state the governor. If you're local, it's the mayor. The buck stops there. I want to know what you think because you have the ability to make my life better or worse with your decisions. But before we get to that, this is the longest preface in the history of radio. I do want to send my condolences out to James Caan's family, fellow actor, legendary actor. Those of you who are James Caan fans know of his great resume in the business. Really, really good guy. Had a very rough patch in his life. Got in some drug issues that he freely admitted really kind of turned him to another person for a while. But you don't let that era define this man. Great actor. Probably best known for his role as Sonny Corleone in The Godfather. You remember the toll booth scene where the rival gang opened up on him, and it just like one of the iconic scenes in cinema was that scene where he, as Sonny Cologne, Sonny Cologne, he smelled good while he was getting riddled with machine guns. Sonny Corleone met his demise there. But the one role to me that stands out even more than that, some of you may remember, was before The Godfather. He did a movie called Brian's Song, and he played a character named Brian Piccolo, a fullback for the Chicago Bears. And he befriended, in real life, Brian Piccolo befriended his teammate, Gale Sayers, black running back out of Kansas. And they had this unlikely friendship that started out kind of rocky, not on good terms, but wound up being best friends. During the course of that relationship, Brian Piccolo contracted cancer, which ultimately took his life. But the story Brian's Song is just such a touching story of that friendship between Gale Sayers and Brian Piccolo. And that's where I became a real James Caan fan. May he rest in peace. From what I understand, he was a man of faith. So he's there up in heaven with a body that will never wear out. He was 82 years old, never wear out, never grow old, never get sick again. And that's where we find our joy as believers. Also, did you do your homework and watch the movie Failsafe? We're on kind of the movie genre here. I did. I watched it again last night. And I'm going to make this for Autry's Army required viewing. If you have Tubi, it's a free app. If you don't, go get it. It's a free app. You can get the movie free on Tubi. Again, made in 1964. It's in black and white. Stellar cast. It's got Larry Hagman, from JR fame of Dallas. He plays a Russian interpreter, and just unbelievably strong performance by Larry Hagman, like you've never seen him before. Walter Matthau plays a college professor, and is just outstanding. And the President of the United States is played by none other than one Henry Fonda. And it is absolutely mesmerizing and terrifying at the same time. I won't give a spoiler alert, but it's, in general, it's about a hypothetical situation which could conceivably occur where there was a mess up, a mistake in the technology, and through this mistake, planes are dispatched to Moscow to bomb Moscow with nuclear weapons, and the stories about them trying to stop that plane from getting to Moscow, this mistake, and stopping what could be, and probably would be, if they don't stop the plane, the end of, the world as we know it. It would result in a nuclear exchange of just horrific proportions. But it is so well acted, and it's a wake-up call to what's going on right now. And you watch that movie, you can kind of see why I'm coming from where I'm coming from. See, this movie was made in 1964, a couple of years after the Cuban Missile Crisis. So it was still fresh in the minds and the hearts and souls of people how close we came to nuclear catastrophe. So people realized the magnitude of this issue, nuclear weapons. That's what started the SALT treaty talks. And during that era, the concept of guaranteed mutual destruction, if one country ever fired on another, was enough, most people felt, to keep the peace. The danger was if that mindset ever left, if for some reason people stopped thinking about mutual assured destruction, would that give birth to a mindset, a reckless mindset, that could end up triggering a nuclear war? And if you just pay attention out here now, nobody's really talking about it in a serious way. The possibility of nuclear war with all the situations around the world. There's about 5 or 6 situations of itself. Each one could easily escalate into a nuclear exchange. And nobody's really talking about it. And who should be leading the way is the United States of America, which has the biggest stockpile of nuclear weapons, who's now on the battlefield against the country with the second most nuclear weapons. And the 2 leaders of those countries aren't even talking. Now, this movie, Failsafe, shows you an insight to all these different perspectives that are at play, from the military perspective, political perspective, academia. And that's where it gets really fascinating, because there's a lesson there about communication, of why you have to keep communication open. So anyway, I'm not going to tell you any more about that other than go see it, because next week, let me give you till, let's see, let's say Wednesday or Thursday of next week, we will discuss this movie. I'll try to have a guest. Well, Wednesday we have Larry and Triple G, but I will probably do it Thursday. But if you can't have it done by Wednesday, because we may kick it off on that Wednesday. So that's your assignment. The next movie up will be Dr. Strangelove, and coincidentally, both dealing with the specter of nuclear war. So on that pleasant subject, we're going to take a break. And when we come back from the I Told You So file, yesterday we talked that Boris Johnson's days, it wasn't even days numbered. It turned out to be hours after this incident over in Europe. But he's gone. He's 88 and out the gate, and we're going to kind of discuss that when we get back, because is there a lesson for President Joe Biden to learn from what's happened to Boris over there? I think so. And when we come back, we're going to talk about it. This is Have I told you lately that I love you? Golly, I got to get some better eye drops. See, I'm farsighted. What's the difference? Is farsighted mean you can't see things far away, or you do see things far away? And nearsighted, do you see things nearsighted? Excuse me. Or do you not see things that are closer? My trouble is I can read anything far off. And the print doesn't have to be that big. But up close here, it just gets blurry as heck. And I heard they have some eye drops now to help that. So I'm going to go to the old eye doctor and see if I can grab me some of those and see if they work. And if they do, I'll pass it on to you. I'll pass it on if you don't work, because you know it's going to be expensive. Anything you got to have a prescription for is going to cost you something.
One minute.
Thank you there, Jeremy. Do you have the air conditioning on, Jeremy? Baked bread in here.
15 seconds.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. Well, we told you yesterday, I felt it wasn't going to be too long before it was, bye-bye Boris. And I'm not talking about Karloff, talking about Johnson, the Prime Minister of England, after his disastrous tour over in Europe, where he felt during the middle of a deadly, horrific war in a world economic recession that it would be funny to talk about taking your clothes off like Putin and spending time with the G7 in front of a pool of photographers and reporters and talk about his pecs. And then follows that up with an interview saying that the reason that Putin attacked the Ukraine was because of toxic masculinity. This guy has picked up every catchphrase from the woke left. That's why he's kind of broed up, and he said it with Joe Biden. Now, here's a fella who, to the dismay and the surprise of many, came in as a conservative. He was behind the whole Brexit movement. He didn't start that. He was in Parliament. He had a high position in government, but was a conservative. Said, hey, look, we can't be part of this muddled mess called the European Union. They don't know what they're doing. They don't want what ends up. We in England have a proud history of knowing what we're doing. Let's don't give them power over our currency, our trade, and war, and anything else they decide to do in their collective wisdom or lack of. It was Nigel Farage, who was in Parliament, who is generally given credit for starting the movement and getting the movement some traction. Boris came on board anyway. It went to the people. They voted on it. And the Brexit people won, and Boris was in there and started off pretty well. Now, I don't know. They don't know either. It's he got COVID. There was some weird stuff going on before then. Some positions he was taking, the way he was talking. You could see he was just drifting over into this, not just liberal, but this woke left, politically correct, gender neutral, toxic masculinity, all these things that have nothing to do with leading a country, with all the problems that every country has nowadays. And it started to be a little disconcerting to the people. They thought, well, it's passing phase. He had COVID. Maybe it's long COVID. Maybe that's what happens to him. But then, as Nigel, I watched last night on late night, Nigel Farage Live, talking about this. And he made, I think, a very good point because, he's there. I want to listen to what the British people have to say, not what our so-called pundits have to say what happened. I think you find more insights. You find more what's going on in Fresno talking with somebody in Fresno, not somebody from L.A. or Washington, D.C. or Sacramento. So Nigel's right in the middle of that. And the reporter asked him, what happened? What happened to Boris? And Nigel Farage took a deep breath, looked down, took his time. He says, the people of England are a very forgiving people. So I'm saying, okay, where's this going? He proceeded to say, you in America think the press is tough and rough, going after people personally. It's nothing compared to England, the newspapers and the media here. Yet, through all of this atmosphere of which politicians and business people and the Queen and her family, you see how the media covers in London, Prince Harry and all this stuff. With through that all, he says, they're a forgiving people, even the press. Excuse me. And, but he said there's a point when if you don't tell the truth, through all of that, truth is still a big thing in England, in particular with the leaders. So they will accept, even if you have a financial misdealing, you have a moral failing, or both, whatever, as long as you own up to it, the British people will give you a second chance, third chance, sometimes, even politically, by re-electing people that have fallen pretty far. But he said in Boris Johnson's case, he kept not telling the truth, lying over and over and over and over again. Then he started doing things, like having the parties over there on Downing Street when he was shutting down everybody and every business. And I have people that I know over there. It was draconian. You couldn't go out. And they enforced it. You have to stay home. You can't go out and party, and they can only have so many people in your apartment, only family and what have you. The list went on. Yet, while he was partying away there at Downing Street, with all of his friends, probably where he got COVID. And this kept going. He denied it for a long, long time. Then I guess there's this individual that he hired high up in the political ladder there. I don't have his name, and Nigel Farage didn't mention his name. Mentioned the individual that he hired. I'll Google it, find out later. But apparently this individual has had a long history of being accused of unwanted sexual advances towards young men. And Boris, when these revelations came out after he was appointed, kept coming up. And then finally the press confronted Boris with this. And Boris said, I knew nothing about these accusations before I appointed him. So you going to fire him? No, he's doing a good job. So, okay, the press doing a good job. It's maybe just rumors. But then it came out that Boris Johnson did know that the individual had these charges, more than one, against him. So he lied. So lied about the parties, lied about hiring this guy. And he went on, and I won't chew up time, but Nigel Farage listed of litany of other instances where he lied. So his belief, and I tend to believe Nigel Farage on this, is there is a limit in England to where people will go. It's part of the DNA there of England, of the gentleman and the lady, and there's a code of conduct. Yes, a forgiving country, but there is a line that once you cross, you're toast. Now that line is way down the line, as forgiveness should be, but once you crossed it. Well, apparently he crossed it with his visit when he, as we just mentioned, did this crazy interview about toxic masculinity behind Putin invading, not a historical misread that Putin may have had, which is a legitimate thing to discuss. There's a lot of reasons or possibilities out there, but just toxic masculinity, and then following it up and saying if Putin would have been a woman, that he wouldn't be out seeking war. And I'm going to say something right now, and I don't mean this as criticism, it's just fact. It's ridiculous on its face value. You can look through the course of history, some of the most, roughest, toughest, war-seeking leaders were some women in history. We won't rattle them off, but again, Google it. See, but even in our own backyard, there has never been a more adamant war hawk than Hillary Clinton. And again, there you go, Autry with Hillary. No, listen, I'll list some things that I think Hillary Clinton had a good idea about, but they were so overwhelmed by all of her other nonsense and all of her other stuff that was so horrible that it's tough to cherry pick those things. They're out there. But you just look at her history. She's just has a history of that. She's not shy about going to war, and it doesn't take much. You know, the war in Bosnia, Libya, she was ready to go and ready to just show Putin. So if you're going to, you know, use that as an example, toxic masculinity, I don't know, what do you have, you know, Jeremy, exciting estrogen or what? I don't know. What do you have? It's just silly what Boris said. Okay. Well, that's when the doo-doo hit the fan finally. Well, the doo-doo hit the fan way before that. But that's when finally everybody threw up their hands and said, we're done with him, including his own cabinet. The exodus began. Members of his own cabinet resigned. And I'm done. 50 of them. 50 cabinet members. And finally, the one, I guess, was the one that broke the proverbial camel's back, the straw that broke the back of the camel, was his health secretary, who is well respected by conservatives, the Labor Party, everyone, came in and told Boris, because he just was appointed, and came, I think, last month, very recent appointment. And Boris really respects him. And the guy asked for a meeting, went in and told Boris to his face, according to Nigel Farage and confirmed by the media reports in England, that, hey, you got to go. No, you're done. And I'm leaving if you don't. So if you love your country, as you say you do, because, by the way, Boris, you don't have a team here anymore. If you haven't looked, it would be like all the Secretary of Defense, Health, Human Services, you know, the Secretary of the Interior. You go all in all, just left. Your Karine Jean-Pierre says, I'm not your spokesperson anymore. And you're sitting there on Downing Street alone, wanting to throw a party like you have been in the past, but nobody's coming. You're there by yourself. Is the most bizarre thing politically that I've seen in my lifetime, where they just left. And so he really had no choice but to step down, and he did. And then there was, well, does he serve out to the end of the year? And from what we're hearing, the people of England and the powers that be there, both Conservative and Labor Party, but in particular his party, the Conservative Party, who has the majority right now, they don't want to blow this. They're saying, hey, look, people, Boris Johnson is not the Conservative Party. This is not the guy we put in office, if you haven't known. We are as upset with him as conservatives, more so than you are. That's the message you're trying to get out. We want him out too. This coup's been left by conservative because he appointed mostly conservatives, you know, to his cabinet. So he's gone. And what was the number one offense, according to Nigel Farage, was being untruthful. You lie, 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 and lie. And finally, if you're in the head of something, if you're the head of your family, your father or mother, and lie, you're going to lose the trust of your kids. If you're running a business and you lie and lie and lie and lie to your employees, you're going to lose the trust of your employees, and rest assured they're going to look for another place to work. Most situations, you know, everybody falls short. You know, Paul's right. We all sin, fall short of the glory of God. That includes in the area of telling the truth. And don't play holier than thou. You're telling me you haven't told a lie? Come on. Oh, well, just a little white lie. Well, if you're a believer and believe the ground is level at the cross, there's no such thing as a little white lie. A lie is a lie in the eyes of God. Right? So let's get that straight. Let's don't try to excuse our behavior by comparing it to worse behavior. You know, that's like the wife beater going, well, you know what? I only hit my wife 5 times. My neighbor hit his wife 10 times last week. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's good guy. No, you get my point. It's an absurd example, but it's an accurate example. You know, so that's the danger. The real danger of starting out lying. And here's the really big danger we have to watch out for as human beings. When it appears that the lie we've told has helped us get what we want, that's about the most dangerous thing can happen to you. You know what you should hope for? You should hope for this. That first lie you tell rebounds on you, hits you between the eyes, knocks you down, stomps on your face. So when you get up, you say to yourself, man, I never want to tell a lie again. That's the ideal thing. Usually that doesn't happen. Lies are the devil's number one tool. He comes here to lie, kill, and destroy. That's not just us civilians out here. That devil's whispering into every politician's ear every minute of every hour of every day we're in office. Say whatever you need to say to get what you want. And that's the world we're living in. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to call that out, as they did in England, and hold it accountable and hold the individuals accountable. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to ask a difficult question. It's going to cost me viewers and listeners. It already has. My position on Roe versus Wade has. But I promised you, it's me you got here. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. Maybe years, maybe a day, one more day. Who knows? But I'm never going to lie to you. And I think we have a situation here with our president that if he doesn't turn things around quick, and I don't know if he can, he may face a similar fate as Boris Johnson in terms of the lies. When we come back, we're going to talk about that. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat. Please release me, let me go, for I don't love you anymore. That's what my listeners of yours are saying to me, Jeremy. The other song I'm hearing is, turn out the lights, the party's over. We have that one. You got that one? Oh, he's good. Little Willie Nelson. Now Willie's liberal. Willie's a real liberal. I don't know if Willie's woke, though. I don't think Willie is willing. Willie is willing to go the gender neutral route. I think Willie still believes a man is a man, a woman is a woman. The only one that can give birth is a woman. And she's a mother. She's not a birthing person. And I just don't, as much marijuana as he smokes, he's rich. He can afford the good stuff. And I just don't think it could rewire his brain where he would, Waylon Jennings was still around. He'd say, Waylon, when are you having your baby? He wouldn't say it like that.
Hey, Waylon, when are you having your baby?
Oh, man, I know I'm silly. That's daddy humor. Oh, man. Oh, hey, Jacqueline, thanks for the plaque. My goodness. And Laura, if you're there, hang in there, Laura. I'm just working with the team to get this little proposal thing I want to send you, because I think hopefully, God willing, will work out. But we got to get some OKs down the line up the food chain. See, I don't get paid for this. I said I don't want to be paid. If people want to contribute to the show, which people do, they contribute to a nonprofit called Legacy Education, Inc., which provides mentoring and life coaching services to at-risk youth. Doing a great job. The coaches are out there. My daughter Heather's one of them. And we've got other nonprofits. And expecting my oldest daughter, Lauren, she's got our little grandson, Joseph, and doing a great job there. But when she gets back in the swim of things, she's a great life coach herself. And so it's kind of a family thing, helping these kids. Big shout out to Sean, son-in-law, Joseph. Again, I don't know if they're listening or watching. Sometimes they do. And daughter Heather, Bullet Bob Leone, Dan Alsop, part of the Riverdale posse. Steve McKean, get well quick, Steve.
30 seconds. Turn out the lights. The party's over.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now. 559-899-1550.
Oh, Boris, that's the only theme song I could think of. Brother Boris. You know, folks, when you get in that kind of state of mind watching him, sometimes that's the kindest, most loving thing you can do is cut someone like that loose, because they don't know what end is up. They're overwhelmed. He doesn't know how to do this job or that job that he had, and he won't quit on his own. And deep down inside, they're kind of relieved. It's like the old boxer in the ring knows he doesn't have a chance against the big slugger, and he just kind of looks for a soft place to land and hope that the referee comes in and counts fast, 10. But we were talking about truth, and does it really even matter anymore? To be honest with you, I don't think it matters like it used to. It used to be if you didn't tell the truth, that was a real bad thing. You were expected to acknowledge it, and if you didn't, there was consequences. I think that went all the way up to Nixon during Watergate. When you think about what he was charged with, some folks from the campaign broke into the DNC to try to steal some papers. Now, that's bad, but compare it to what politicians have done nowadays. I mean, it's excuse me. I wouldn't call it a nothing burger, but it is something important. And you shouldn't do those sort of things, obviously. But again, comparatively, and here I go comparing, bad behavior to worse behavior. But you see what I'm getting at. Today, it doesn't matter what you do or what you say. It doesn't matter the lies you tell. The ends justify the means. And even when you're caught, there's seldom any consequences for our public elected officials. And that has to change. Hopefully, in England, that's going to wake up some folks up. If you value democracy, if you value integrity in your leaders. But, let's go to Joe Biden, because I hate doing this list, but, it's got to be said. In our little talk show, everywhere, because a change has to be made by him quickly, like a year ago. And we're not seeing any indication that this individual can depart from his ultra woke left agenda, which is to basically destroy this country economically, and in his mind, build back better. I don't know, a Marxist regime? Well, what does that mean, build back better, comrade? I mean, it makes no sense. And the sensible people in the Democratic Party, which there is a lot still in there, scratching their heads going, this is not what I voted for. This is not the Joe Biden I knew. The problem is you didn't know him. You weren't paying attention. I mean, this goes all the way back in terms of telling the truth of who he is and what he believes in. He ran for president back in the day, and he had to drop out. You know why he had to drop out? Because he was exposed to have plagiarized an entire speech by, oddly enough, a British politician. Now, not just a line or two. It's like plagiarizing the whole song. It's like George Harrison doing My Sweet Lord was a total, exactly like He's So Fine, not a couple of lyrics. You can get copyright infringement on a like 8 or 9 notes in a row. Bless his heart, George had the whole song. Well, the whole speech plagiarized. Excuse me, folks. I'm sorry about that. It's just that thing with my throat. So that should give you some indication of where he's coming from. Number one, that his aversion for the truth. Number two, he felt so little regard for the American intelligence of the people that they wouldn't find out. And then the third was, I'll take that chance because if they find out they're not going to do anything to me. Now, he should have known better, but because that was back in the day when truth mattered just a little bit more. But he didn't. He lied. He plagiarized. So let's flash forward to him as vice president. He was part of the infamous quote from President Obama and promise to the American people, I promise, right in the camera. I remember Barack Obama doing this. This was one of those in-your-face, hey, cameraman, come in real close because I want people to really hear this. I want them to see my eyes as I transfix upon them because I know they're going to hold me accountable for this, and I want them to trust me as President of the United States. He looked right into the camera in the healthcare debate and said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor with Obamacare. Joe Biden was asked the same thing in debate. Camera comes in, says the same thing. In their plans, if you want to keep your doctor, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. It was a lie. They knew it was a lie when they said it. How do we know that? Because the person who wrote the legislation had meetings with them and told them that millions of people were not going to be able to keep their doctor. They knew that. Yet again, this, as Thomas Sowell calls this, a vision of the anointed. They felt we're so dumb, they're so smart. One day, us dumb people and our descendants will be as smart as they are. But until that happens, they are morally bound to take care of us, even if that means lying to us, because they're so dead sure what they're proposing is good for us and the whole country, that anything it's said is okay morally. It's the Saul Alinsky's rule for radicals. It's the Marxist bedrock principle of Marxism. Lying is not something that you should be ashamed of. In direct opposite, it's a very indispensable tool that you keep in your political toolbox. And be ready to take that screwdriver or wrench called lying out anytime it's needed. Look right into the camera and tell the American people a bald-faced lie. Then you put it back in your toolbox, and whenever you need it again, it's right there. That's what this ideology, Biden, Obama, and this woke left were behind. Now I know I'm going to lose some people on that. Because we can go, and I have some gripes from people on the right in terms of telling the truth. We'll go after that, too, on an upcoming show. Probably Monday. But let's go down the list. You know, he's got a few minutes here, but as president, he said he was not going, during the campaign rather, that he was not going to ban fracking. And then when he was in West Virginia campaigning, but then he's up in the northern parts of the states, more liberal states, and he's saying, not only will I ban fracking, I will put anybody in the oil industry in jail who doesn't comply with what I'm putting forth, which is an immediate transfer from fossil fuels to renewables, which is absolutely impossible without totally destroying the economy, and that's what he's doing. He kept that promise. He lied to everybody else in the oil industry and us. Then he gets elected, and the first thing he does is kill the Keystone Pipeline. And this was drilling that would happen in Canada, not in the United States, that made us energy independent. We were exporting oil before he took office. Gasoline, remember those days, $2 a gallon for gasoline? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But at the same time, he lifted the sanctions on the Nord Stream pipeline in Russia. The dastardly Russians. Okay, then let's, because we're running out of time, so I got to cherry pick. There's so many. Well, let's talk about inflation. Look how he lied on inflation. Now, his economists, that people have told him that excessive government spending has always been, historically, and always will be, a fueler of inflation. It's a simple equation. But he comes out and says adamantly that government spending does not affect inflation. He knew he was lying when he was saying, he said it's not. And okay, then he comes out and said it's not here, that inflation is not real. That was his position. Comes out and said, this is not inflation. Then he says, okay, it is inflation, a month later, but it's transitory. It'll be here and gone. Directs Janet Yellen to say the same thing. Well, she comes back and said, I was wrong. He's yet to say he was wrong on anything. They said Trump wouldn't say when he was wrong. This man has never said he's done one wrong thing as president or vice president or as a senator. And then he says, okay, then with the inflation, it's Putin's fault. So it's not real. It's transitory. No, prior to the Putin thing, he said it's good. That this inflation's actually good for the economy. How, again, there was nobody there to back him up. He just said it because he lies. And then it was Putin's price hike, Putin's fault. Okay? That didn't get any traction. Poll numbers still plummeted. So what can I do? All right, I'll go after oil and gas companies. He goes after the oil and gas companies. Says it's your fault that gas prices are up. Are you following this, folks? This is the progression. If one lie doesn't work, God, by all means, just go to the next lie. And the oil and gas company responded when he said, Mr. President, you need to do, whoever advised you needs to take Economics 101. Okay? Well, okay, that got him on his heels. He can't win that fight. Okay, let's go after the gas station owners. Gas station owners, just reduce your price. You're causing inflation. And without doing any homework, folks, there's about 145,000 independent gas stations. They're all small businesses. And the profit ratio on gas, they make more selling candy bars than their profit ratio on gas. I think it's about a nickel gallon or something. I think Jeremy gave me that statistic. But as I say again, Google it. It's ridiculous. Rather than just saying what it is. Look, my policies are behind this, are a big part of this. Yes, the war in Ukraine is an aspect. But my policies of no drilling is not working. I'm going to direct my Department of Interior to start giving leases, real leases, and real backup to this. Because you don't just get the oil out of the ground and put it in our tank. It's a whole expensive process that has to go through. From the ground, get to the refineries before it's finally at the gas station in our vehicles. And just simply say, I'm going to change course. Bill Clinton did that. Bill Clinton, after he lost the midterms, said the era of big government's over, adjusted a lot of his policies, and brought in Dick Morris and came up with that triangulation thing to where you try to play the middle and you take the policies that the public wants and you try them. And you see if they're working better than what's in place now at the time. And there's so much in place now policy-wise that is not working, that it could instantaneously make a huge impact on the economy if he would just make those changes. Like reinstate the Keystone Pipeline. Say to Zelensky, we need to seek peace there in the Ukraine. Call for peace, Joe Biden. Don't call for more war. You know as well as I do, Ukraine is not going to win that war. Call for peace. And you wonder why you can't get Brittany Griner out there after you call this man should be killed in office. And now that's a great rapport and relationship to have when you're trying to get Brittany Griner out of the Russian prison back home. You've already poisoned that relationship so much you can't call up the Vladimir Putin, as leaders do. And that's what happens when you just run amok and you lie. All right, folks. I just want to invite you back tomorrow. We'll probably have, maybe 2 of our listeners back tomorrow after this. But, folks, that's all right. We'll be strong, and those 2 will be, I'll be proud to have you with us. Love you all. Good Lord willing, creek don't rise. See you tomorrow. Remember, just do your best and let God do the rest. Bye-bye now.
Who cares about the